Hello, and welcome to South Jersey Cultural Alliance's very first South Jersey Artist Forum. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about tapping into fellowships and artist opportunities, and a little bit specifically about the Individual Artist Fellowship for 2022, which has an upcoming deadline of July 15th. We want to make sure everyone's aware of that opportunity, and we talk a little bit about that application process to help encourage applications from South Jersey artists. Historically, we've had some low application rates from our 8 southern counties, and we're really trying to get the word out to artists working in the field so that those application submissions can increase and we can see more successful applications coming from southern counties. So to begin the session today, I just want to thank everyone for taking some time to come and be with us. This group is really an informal gathering. We will have some specific topics that we're addressing, like the individual fellowship, but really it's just a platform for artists to get together to talk with other artists and SJCA. And today we happen to have some representatives from the council with us to answer questions about the fellowship. So without any further ado, I want to just talk a little bit about the community we're trying to build here. So in this forum and really in all of our meetings, we want to set a few ground rules just to make sure that everyone's participation is pleasant and beneficial. So let's be curious, open, and respectful. Call in, not out, and throw sunshine and not shade. So what that means is basically be curious, be open-minded, be respectful of everyone's opinions, and even if you don't agree, that doesn't mean that we need to have a heated debate. It just means that you can find a way to oppose that opinion with making sure you're keeping respectful interactions. No one knows everything, but together we know a lot. Certainly I don't know everything. That's why I'm thankful that the council representatives are here, Danielle and Michelle, as well as all of you, because I think our greatest asset is each other. And if we can collaborate and communicate, then we have a lot to offer. We can't be articulate all the time, as evidenced by yours truly. Let's give everyone the benefit of the doubt, ask questions, and make sure that you're not being too shy to speak just because you think you might not have the exact right words. Confidentiality, don't speak for others without their explicit permission, and don't share something communicated in a private or safe space. The information we give here likely will not be confidential, but we want to try and keep anything that might be considered sensitive or confidential within this group here. One mic, one voice at a time, which means we have to take turns talking. So if you would like to speak, you can either raise your physical hand if your camera is on, or if you are shy and your camera is not on, you can raise your digital hand and I will do my best to monitor that and call on you and give everyone a chance to contribute and be part of the conversation. And lastly, we want to take space and make space. If you're unusually quiet, challenge yourself to talk a little bit more. And if you talk a lot, try and be mindful to leave room for some of our quieter voices. We have a lot of opinions, a lot of stories to be told, and we want to make sure that we hear from everyone. So keeping that in mind, I think we're in for a great discussion today about the Individual Artist Fellowship and about fellowships and other opportunities in general for South Jersey artists. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about what is prompting this particular forum, these kinds of meetings, and really what's driving SJCA's work going forward. So you might have heard us talking about the South Jersey Cultural Asset Mapping Project. And in that project, we are researching and doing outreach to artists and groups and organizations throughout the 8 counties of South Jersey. We hope that through this project, we will be able to connect more artists, organizations, community cultural groups throughout South Jersey so that they can help each other, learn from each other, support each other, pool resources, and in many other ways work together to strengthen our cultural community. These connections that we're making through outreach has to grow our communication network exponentially. We started out around 85 people in our membership database, and now we're up to almost 800 listings for our map and our membership database. We really want to represent the entire South Jersey cultural community, and that means representing those communities, individuals, and groups that we haven't represented before. So our BIPOC groups, our Hispanic communities, all of those individual artists that might be doing this part-time and not necessarily be on other people's rosters. those smaller groups that might not necessarily be traditionally structured nonprofits, those community groups out there doing social impact work that could benefit from arts and cultural assistance, or who also do some arts and cultural programming for their communities. So we want to make sure that we are reaching out to everyone, getting information as far out into all the corners of the field as we can, and representing the entire South Jersey cultural community. If you have not been registered with the mapping project yet, you can do that with the link here on this slide. We are certainly happy to have you included. Every person and every group or organization that participates receives a listing on the map, a digital profile, and also a free basic level membership to SJCA. So this will help us to keep connected with you and keep you informed, and keep providing you opportunities to connect with your colleagues in the cultural community. So that said, one of the main reasons that we're having this particular session right now is that there's a looming deadline for the individual artist fellowships for 2022. And this is a fantastic opportunity that we want to make sure all of our artists are taking part in. The individual artist fellowships, they're awarded to New Jersey artists. They're anonymous. It's a competitive application process, and the more people who apply, the more chance there is to increase South Jersey artists receiving these fellowships. Now, the Mid-Atlantic Arts Foundation works closely with the New Jersey State Council on the Arts. Mid-Atlantic Foundation actually does all of the application, submission review, post-award processes on behalf of the State Council on the Arts. But they work very closely to provide technical workshops, answer questions, and make sure that that application process is going smoothly and that there aren't any obstacles in the way for artists to participate. Now, the categories that they're focusing on for 2022 are digital and electronic, film and video, painting, printmaking, drawing, and book arts, and prose. So those rotate each year. This year, this is the focus, but there are listings of future years' focus on the website, the council website, or the Mid-Atlantic Arts Foundation website. Now, I've got the link here to apply. This is the actual application link. Make sure that you're noticing that the deadline is July 15th, 5 p.m. So it is the end of the day, not midnight. So you want to make sure you're not waiting to the last minute so there are no technical hiccups that stop your application. This link is for the application itself, but if you visit the Mid-Atlantic Arts Foundation website, you will find not only the guidelines, but you will also find recordings of the technical assistance webinars, and also step-by-step and very in-depth technical instruction on the application software itself that you'll be using to submit your application. So lots of resources can be found there, but if there's something that you're not finding, or you are continuing to have struggles with the application, please reach out to SJCA, reach out to Danielle at the Arts Council, and we will be able to help you with your issue. So if it's technical in nature, we can get you connected with the right folks to fix that. If it's just a conversation you want to have about your application, we can help you with that. If you're looking for other artists to connect with to critique each other's work or get feedback on your application, we can help with that too. We really just want to make sure that you're aware of this particular opportunity and the upcoming deadline, as well as the fact that SJCA, the State Council on the Arts, the Mid-Atlantic Arts Foundation, and your colleagues throughout the field are all here to help, because we really need to work together to strengthen each other, our body of work, and our field as a whole. So that said, we can have some further discussion about the individual artist fellowship, and then I hope that the conversation will gear towards the general topic of applying for grants and fellowships in general. As we said earlier, South Jersey has a historically low submission rate. We want to understand why that's happening. Is it because we're not getting the information out widely enough? Is there some technical barrier to application? What can we do to help encourage our body of artists to apply? Those sorts of things. So I want this meeting in general to be an open place for conversation. So let's get started by trying to have some input from our group here about what is happening with the application process in the field. I'd like to hear from some artists about ideas or ways that you think we can be supportive of of artists in the field and help to encourage them to apply, and maybe bolster their confidence a little bit so that it's not stopping them from application. Well, your name says Linda, but I don't believe that that's really your name.
Can you hear me? I'm not very good at this.
I can hear you very well.
Okay. My name is Jeff Gola. I'm going to have to fix that someday. That's my wife's name. But I'm a painter in Burlington County, and I have won the award twice. And I really do wish more people from South Jersey would enter and win this. It has nothing to do with your connections. I didn't know anybody or anything when I did this. It was a wonderful experience. The application process is very, very easy to do. If I was going to give advice to anybody submitting for this, I would say take some time to curate your own work, your own submissions, because I think the way it works is, if I remember correctly, you are submitting 8 images in 2 groups, a group of 4 that will go through the judges for the first round. And then if they like those, then they'll come back and look at the next 4 that you have. And when you do so in these groups, this is just my perception. Nobody came back and told me, but I thought it was very, very important to pick my 4 images, not so they were just my favorite things that I had done in the time frame, but that the 4 of them somehow hung together, so that, because I think a lot of the people who are judges for this, they come from the academic world, maybe the high-end gallery world. That's what they look for. They look for, a body of work that tells some sort of cohesive story. So that would be a very, very important thing, I think, if you submit. That's all I have to say about that.
Oh, thank you so much for that, Jeff. And I'm so glad we have some prior award winners on here to help give us some personal insight on this. So that your comments make a lot of sense. Now, would it be helpful to artists that were thinking of applying to have some sort of group or meetup to help review each other's work and art critique to help you hone your applications? Or do you feel like a collaboration like that would be beneficial to you? I see Larissa saying thumbs up. Yes, she would like that. And Will over in the corner, I see you saying yes too. Kimberly, are you saying yes or no? I see your hands waving. Let's hear. I want to hear your voice.
Yeah, I had my hand raised. I've actually been in an exchange with Danielle for the past couple of days while I'm trying to get this manuscript finished, because I looked at the list of fellowship awards, and there were only 5 in Southern Jersey counties, and all the rest were in North Jersey. And so I asked the Mid-Atlantic Arts Foundation, which manages the fellowship program for New Jersey, who were the past jurors, to see if maybe that was of interest. It seemed to be fine, but 40 years ago, the reason I got into this field was because the funding ratio between Northern Jersey and Southern Jersey was 11-1. It hasn't changed much, and it distresses me. I was able to get Walter Rand, and at that time I didn't even know about, other than that he was chair of the Appropriations Committee. I was in my 20s, but I said to him, it's not right. And we finally were able to get some money coming into Camden organizations. And I remember the director at that time, Jeff Kesper, calling me and asking me to get Walter Rand off of his back. I said, why would I do that? And here I am back in the state, and it has not changed. And I'm concerned. I'm concerned that I'm only the only African-American artist on this call, on this meeting. I'm concerned that there isn't more support coming to Southern Jersey. And what I said to Danielle, and hopefully we'll talk sometime soon, the artist can't be the problem, it has to be the policy. Because there are artists in Southern Jersey. And I asked what the outreach was. And even there are people that I thought would be on this meeting that I don't see. So something needs to be done to ensure that council resources are getting better distributed. I apply every year, and fellowships are, they fund what, I don't know, at the NEA level, when they did have them, it was about 2%. So it was a matter of just happenstance. Does everybody have a body of work? Yes and no. We heard from one person who said she was a part-time artist, and another person who said they're a painter. But the way that applications are reviewed does change a lot of who gets them. I served on NEA panels. I served as an NEA panel chair. I've served on panels for arts councils all over the country. And then all of them have challenges in trying to make sure that they're reaching urban and rural and suburban communities. And some of them have been very successful in creating initiatives so that they are, and some say they are and never do. And so I'm and Danielle graciously asked me what my ideas were. And I said, I want to know what you're doing, not what I'm doing. Because that's their job, is to support this community of artists. That's what they're there for. And so if there's a disconnect that's creating a division between one region versus another, I mean, Southern Jersey is pretty big. I would imagine that in some of the northern counties, there are 5 fellowship recipients in one county. So I think it needs a deeper dive. I think it needs a closer look for the possibility of doing some things that can help solve the problem, so that artists in Southern Jersey aren't constantly asking why they're not getting the support that they need.
And I think, Kim, thank you for your comments. I think all of those are extremely valid
And
points.
it's Kimberly, not Kim.
I'm sorry, Kimberly. Thank you for your comments. And, honest feedback is important here. And I know that many artists feel as Kimberly does. As SJCA, as the entity that is collectively trying to represent artists, organizations, and arts and culture groups throughout our southern counties, the SJ Camp project is one effort that we're making to try and identify where more of these artists are and find out how to communicate with them so that we can better distribute the information that's coming from the council or other granting bodies, so that people can understand what's available and come to us if there are any obstacles in the way of those applications. This is another way, groups like this, getting artists together to talk about these issues with each other, with us, facilitating and listening as a fly on the wall to sort of understand what the real issues are within the artist community, so we can try and help approach it like that. We are also looking, SJ Camp provides a lot of potential for us, and SJCA is a small nonprofit organization, but we are really putting all of our efforts into outreach and connecting with the community. So we are looking to try and find artists or cultural leaders within each of these communities throughout the South that can be ambassadors for SJCA and to help us understand if people are not applying, if they need certain resources to be able to have successful applications. We talk to the council frequently about programs like this, and the application rate is low, which probably has some correlation to why the award rate is also low. And we're trying to provide one approach to increasing the successful applications from the South by making sure that we are spreading the information more widely, and to hopefully, if we're doing our job correctly and doing our outreach, getting that information into the far corners of the South Jersey cultural community instead of to that same small group that we have been servicing up to about a year or so when we sort of changed our direction. I don't think that, and I haven't been a part of the review process specifically, but in our discussions, we have certainly addressed the concern that North Jersey gets more attention than South Jersey. And the review process, as I understand it, is totally anonymous, and therefore they don't know where the work is coming from. So the effect of the North-South divide there, it really shouldn't be a component of where these awards are being given. Kimberly, did you have another comment?
I just want to say a little bit about the anonymous thing, a couple of examples. On the last NEA panel that I was on, there was a jurist, that most of the jurists were around my age and baby boomers. There were a couple of younger people that were there. And one of the panelists kept saying of the applicants, I don't think it's the now, I don't think it's here. I don't think it's the now. And I finally said, what does that mean? What does it mean when you say that regarding this application? What is good or bad about it? What makes you want to think that it deserves funding or not, other than the now? Be more articulate. I had to do the same thing when I was on the inner arts panel at the NEA, and I was like a panel chair. And they were at that time in danger of being eliminated, which ended up happening. But part of it was because panelists would look at the work and say, oh, I already know his work. It's fine. Yeah, next one. It's not as anonymous as you think. You know, the art world is right now, there's about 1.5 million artists out of 300 some million people in the United States. That's a lot, but it's not a whole lot. So it is a smaller world than I think a lot of people remember. When I was in Pennsylvania at the Arts Council, I ran 2 programs. And as you know, Pennsylvania is a very diverse state culturally. And there were people, and I shared this with them, who were in the middle of the state who were Amish. And my panel didn't like their quilts because they were bland colored and very predictable. And they kept saying, well, they're so boring. You know, there's just no pizzazz there. And I said, well, you have to understand that pizzazz in this community is considered sinful. So their aesthetic is to try and make everything the same. So you have to look for the patterns, the repeats, the rhythms, the textures, and their sameness is their value. If you try to judge them based on the quilts in the G's Ben show or the quilts at the Met, they're not going to pass muster, but that's not what they're trying to do. So anonymous isn't always that blind. And the sensitivity to that is important because having been on the inside of arts councils and the funding process, there are ways to actually ensure that that happens. And I at least hope that people at the Arts Council are sitting in on the meetings at the Mid-Atlantic Arts Foundation so they can see the process and meet the jurors and know what the conversation is. I hope.
Thanks again for that, Kimberly. Michelle, you had your hand raised and wanted to make a comment as well.
Yeah, thanks, Julie. My name is Michelle Baxter Schaefer. I'm the Communications and Engagement Specialist for the Arts Council. And so I wanted to be here today because getting back to the point of it starting with the application process and historically the council seeing a lower percentage of applications in the first place from South Jersey. We have a variety of methods, including our email list, working with SJCA, other partners in South Jersey, and service organizations who help us spread the word. There are, we don't know what we don't know. And so that's why I'm also here to listen and see, are there groups or other pipelines that can help us further spread the information so that more South Jersey artists are aware. And that's why sometimes, Kimberly, to your point, we might say, do you know of an email list or something? Because there are groups that we might not be aware of or might not know how they can help spread the word for us. So that's why any thoughts that you all have as the South Jersey artist community, we are open to, because there is only so much information that we do know. And that's why we rely heavily on our partnerships with organizations and cohorts in South Jersey to help disseminate this information. So I am here to listen and learn, but if any of you have any thoughts, or if you are finding barriers to how we're currently sharing the information, that's really important for us to know. So I just wanted to share that piece about it, starting with the lower application rate and, you know, how we can increase that and give more support. I know pre-COVID, Danielle actually was coming down to South Jersey in person to provide technical assistance. We're always available as our partners at Mid-Atlantic Arts. But if you do, thank you, Danielle, for dropping in the chat the link to sign up for our newsletter if you're not already signed up. But again, that's, I think, for me as our communications and engagement specialist, figuring out where else do we need to be reaching out that perhaps we are not currently. So not that we need feedback today, but we are always here if there is feedback or any thoughts that you have on that part of the process.
Yes.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you, Michelle. And I will also say that, you know, SJCA is here to receive feedback as well. And we collect that from artists across the 8 counties, and we deliver that to the council and other granting bodies so that they can understand the concerns from the field. Let's see, there we got a couple of questions coming through here. Danielle did put the email sign up for the council's newsletter, which is a great resource to learn about available grants and opportunities across the field. Their website also lists information about all of the council's direct grants. SJCA.net has a resource page that also lists grant opportunities and webinars from across the field, and we've switched to a weekly format for our bulletin so that we can get that information out to you in a more timely fashion, so that you have time to apply and to dig into all of the information that's being distributed. We're also trying to work more closely with our county cultural and heritage offices in each of the counties as well, so that they can get to those smaller groups and artists within their counties and let them know more readily about available opportunities. But Kimberly or anyone in the field, if you have an avenue that you think we are not distributing this information through, that we should be distributing it through, please let me know. I would love to add it to the list of places where we're getting information out there. We've been in our outreach efforts trying to connect with community groups that may not be wholly arts based, but do have deep connections to the Hispanic community or the communities of color, BIPOC communities, to try and disseminate that information in the places that they get information from. So we've had, you know, a little success with that, but we're really just in the infancy of this new outreach and direction for us. But we want to understand where the gaps are and where the information is stopping and what corners it's not reaching, because we truly want everyone to know about these opportunities and everyone to be able to let us know if there's some reason why you're unable to access them. So we had a couple more questions. I'm sorry, I'm just sifting through the chat here. We had a question about criteria about book arts, illustration, or actual book publication from Susan. She's a painter and illustrator and paints on glass and makes mosaics. So is this in relation to, this is in relation to the individual artist fellowship? You had a question, Susan?
Yeah, hi, I'm Sue Daly. I just don't know what the criteria is, and I do all kinds of stuff. I paint murals. I've been working for 30 years. So the information about having the body of work, that was very, very helpful. Whoever said that, that was really helpful, because my artwork's all over the place. So, you know, to have something in a body, but I didn't know what the criteria was for the artists themselves. So the book, you know, I've done professional illustration, so I didn't know what the making of the books actually meant. If I would fit into that criteria, if that's something I wanted to do, because I haven't really started the process too far yet as far as the application processes. So I didn't know what to expect.
Danielle, is that a question that you think you can answer, or is there a resource for Susan to understand?
She did send a link of where it has I just didn't know what they meant by making the books. So I guess they actually make books.
Yep, that's exactly it, Susan. You know, book arts is actually an art form that frequently artists who make their own paper, but not always artists who make their own paper. It's a three-dimensional sort of paper-based art form.
Okay.
So this category used to be called works on paper, which would have included printmaking, drawing, book arts, generally speaking, things made of paper. And we've just changed the category title because it seemed to be more descriptive to describe it as printmaking, book arts, and drawing.
Okay. Okay.
But I did drop a link to the guidelines. I encourage you to take a look and figure out where your work might fit best in the discipline cycle.
Is it about the work that you've done so much in the past, or do they ask questions about what you want to do in the future if you had time to not
Great
work?
question. It's 100% based on a portfolio of images that you upload. It's completely anonymous. There's no proposal. They don't ask what you're going to do with the money.
Okay.
The panelists just look at your work, and if necessary, or if you choose to, you can upload an optional panel statement, which they would then review, but that's an optional statement that you make about your
Okay.
work.
Okay.
While I have the mic, I'd like to respond to Kimberly's question. I'm an active participant in the panelist selection orientation, and I sit in on every single panel review meeting. So yes, Kimberly, we're you know, very, very hands-on in that process. And having also served on NEA panels and Pennsylvania Council on the Arts and Illinois Council on the Arts panels, I agree there is a big, you know, countrywide disparity in how artists in urban and suburban and rural communities are frequently served by these programs. And it's been something we've paid careful attention to over the past, you know, dozen years at least, if not more. So that's one of the reasons we decided to try to offer larger award amounts to artists from Southern New Jersey. We had 16% of our applications last year come from Southern New Jersey. Numerically speaking, that was 49 applications. Some of the Southern counties had 0 or 1 submission. So when we say we really want to increase the award amounts, you know, we mean it, and we're going to put our money where our mouth is. Artists who go through this anonymous jurying process, at the end of the process, if they're recommended for an award and they're from Southern New Jersey, we're going to give them an increased award amount. Last year, that was 10% more. So, you know, we had 16% of our applications last year come from the 8 Southern counties, and 12% of our awards went to artists from the 8 Southern counties. When you look county by county at those numbers, it tracks actually pretty closely. Even the counties that had really high award amounts also had very high submission rates. So, you know, Bergen County had 10% of our applicants and received 10% of the awards. Hudson County had 16% and 16%. Essex County had 22% of our application and 24%. Those are just individual counties, not 8 county regions. We just need more Southern New Jersey artists to apply.
Thanks for that, Danielle. I see Diane Roberts added a comment here. I'm sorry, Michelle, did you have something you wanted to add to Danielle's comment?
Just quickly, I did want to piggyback on what Danielle was saying and a comment that was made earlier about the panels being widely academic and high gallery. Danielle and the council have made a very concerted effort to make sure that the panelists themselves are more diversified in their background, so that that is not the complete makeup of the panel, because obviously if you're coming from 2 very specific backgrounds, that could potentially color or skew your view of art and what you think is worthy of funding. And we continue with our efforts to make sure that our panelists come from diverse artistic backgrounds, so that that is not the case. So I just wanted to state that the comment that was made earlier, that is not the makeup of our panels.
Thanks for clarifying, Michelle. And I just wanted to share Diane Roberts' comment, because I think it goes a long way to what we talked about previously about encouraging each other as artists and as a sector to be applying for these things. Diane says that artist members from Artsy, I believe that's who you're referring to, she sent her fellowship information, and she's personally invited artists that she thinks are ready for the opportunity to apply. And she's heard back from several of them that have never applied before that they will put in an application this year. So I think those personal, you know, reaching out to artists as artists goes a long way to encourage people, to tell them, you know, your work is good enough. You should apply. I mean, give it a chance. You can't win if you don't play. So I think, you know, we can do that as an entity, as SJCA or as the state council or as the county cultural and heritage offices. But I think that that connection between you artists working in the field is so strong, and you know, you see from the same viewpoint. So you know, those kinds of encouragements I think can go a long way to increasing the number of applications we get here in the South. And those are the kinds of things we want to bolster in meetings like this. We want to create space for you to come together, to meet each other, to encourage each other, to take part in these things and tap into these resources. So we can talk a little more. We're kind of ticking away at the time here. It's a good conversation, but we've got a few other sessions coming up, and we can gear those sessions towards whatever it is you as artists in the field want us to address. So if collaboration and art critiquing and helping each other with these application reviews and processes is something that you want to pursue, we can do that. Or if there's more discussion about diversifying, you know, the panel, diversifying the applicant pool, diversifying, you know, making sure our information is getting to a representative demographic in South Jersey. We want to make sure everyone's getting it, not just the same people that are active and are on our radar. We want to find those smaller groups and artists who might not be registered on anybody's roster just yet, and encourage them to apply as well, because our story here in South Jersey is very rich. You know, we have so much art and history and environmental, you know, issues that come together, that I think we have quite a story to tell, and we want to make sure that everyone is represented in that story. So it's my job to help disseminate the information and to help provide you space to help each other as workers out there in the field. Let's see what else we have. We've got the guidelines in the chat. I just want to make sure we're not missing anyone's questions here as we come towards the end. Someone is saying, Joni Gagnon, I'm going to slaughter your name. I apologize for that. Okay, Joni said that she had some technical issues with the application and that it's been fixed now, but that it did take a few days to resolve. Did you want to share some specifics?
Briefly, I started the application last week and just wanted to tell everybody not to wait till the last minute, because I tried the registration email of Joni at jonisancherico.com, which is my website email, and never got the registration confirmation back. Somehow the forwarding to my website didn't work. So I wrote to Kimberly at Mid-Atlantic, and she said, just try doing lost password and do it over again. Well, that took another day. That didn't work either. So Monday, I finally applied using my Gmail address, and of course got the registration email back immediately. So don't use your website email if that's what you're using. Also yesterday, there's I mean, this is basic, but there was a typo in the word painting. It said panging with a G. And lastly, I was disappointed at the very end because I couldn't resort my images. So with the 8 images, usually like on Cafe, you can resort them how you want them to go. This, you couldn't change them after you put them on there. That was it. So just a couple things, just be aware and don't wait till the last minute to do it.
Thank you for that, Joni. Those are some good tips, and always good for everyone to remember not to wait till the last minute, because technologically, if something can go wrong, it probably will, and it will do it right in that last minute when you're trying to click enter. That's another thing to be aware of with this particular fellowship. The deadline is 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so you can't wait until midnight on the deadline date of July 15th. So if you are on the last day, just make sure you're doing it by end of business day, because that does count for this particular submission. Let's see what else we've got here. We have a question from Susan. If you win the award, there are restrictions there are restrictions on how it's spent. Is there an audit? And do you need to show documentation? I believe we said that there was no restrictions on how the funds are used. Is that true, Danielle?
There are a very short list of things you cannot use the funds for. You cannot use them for international travel. You cannot use them for degree granting schooling, and you cannot use them for equipment. And I believe it's with the resale value over $300. What I tell our fellows is all of those things are absolutely true. The state of New Jersey does not allow us to give you money to use for those things, but you can use it to pay your rent and perhaps use the money you were going to pay your rent with for international travel or equipment over $300. This fellowship is not available to students, which is why you cannot use it for degree granting programs. We do not consider people who are students to be professional artists. So you can't be a grad student or an undergraduate student or a high school student and apply for this fellowship program. In terms of the second part of the question about reporting or an audit, most of the money is given out up front. There's a small, I think it's 10% that Mid-Atlantic holds back. And at the end of the calendar year, we ask the fellows to submit a really brief report that essentially just says, tell us what you did with the money and any significant things you want to tell us about that you achieved over the last year. Then the final 10% is given out.
Right. Does that answer the question then, Susan? Okay, wonderful. Great. So we've got about 10 minutes left in today's call. So I just want to make sure that, is there anyone that has any other comments about the Individual Artist Fellowship or applying for fellowships or grants in general that you want to add before we start talking about what we might look to discuss or the way we want this forum to work going forward for our July and August sessions? And I don't see any more questions in the chat that we haven't addressed yet. Certainly, if you're shy today or if you think of something as soon as the meeting closes, which frequently happens for me, you can always email either SJCA, you can email me at jhane@sjca.net, or you can reach out to the council, Danielle or Michelle, and I'm sure that we can find someone to answer the questions that you have. So in the last few minutes here, since there's no more questions about that particular, and we're dropping some emails in the chat box, thank you so much. Now that we're finished up talking about that particular fellowship, let's talk about this group in general. I would really love to see this be a meeting that we continue to have that's specifically for artists to come together and talk to each other about what you're working on, what's happening in the field, if you're looking for a partner, if you're looking for ideas or you want critique or whatever the case may be. So this is your chance to let me know, what kind of topics do you want to see in the future? What kind of format do you like? Would you like smaller groups, bigger groups, county specific groups? We can really, this is a kind of choose your own adventure. We can form this any way that works for you. These meetings are entirely intended to serve you as artists in the field and to help you collaborate and connect and do the work that you're doing better. So this is your chance now to tell me what we can do for you in the next couple of artist forums. Any suggestions? I've got someone suggesting here, it's not specifically for visual artists. It can be any performer, artist, writer, actor, painter, photographer, singer, any of those can apply. Depending on the size of the groups, if this grows in size, we may think about segmenting those groups just so that the subject matter and topics are kind of grouped together. But we can see how that goes as far as response to attending. That was a good question, Pamela. Thank you. Anyone else have any thoughts on next month? Is there a topic that you would like to address? We'll be probably past the deadline for the Individual Artist Fellowship, so maybe we can talk about a little about your experience with applying, because hopefully all of you will be submitting an application. But what other topics do you want to bring to the table? What else do we want to talk about in the field? Anyone? Everyone is shy. Well, you know, in the beginning of the session, we talked a little bit about the fact that some of the artists would like to have smaller groups to help give feedback specifically about their work. Is that something that anyone thinks we would want to pursue? I know Larissa is excited about that. Does anyone else think that that's something they would want to take part in? Susan, maybe? Okay. Okay, so we can explore that. A couple of comments are coming in here. Someone's going to think about, Laura Bethman's going to think about topics and email me after the forum is over. And I think that's something that I welcome and encourage all of you to do at any time. Email me if you have thoughts for a program or a session that you think is needed, and we can certainly work that into the rotation. And I will put my email address here in the chat box as well for everyone. And you can always contact me through SJCA's website as well. So my email's in the chat box now. What about building the art community by creation of more resources? And I think that that too is a valid point. And we need to, I guess, maybe one of our discussions, Kimberly, can revolve around that. What kinds of resources are needed, how people can best access those resources, and we can brainstorm ways that we can get the field the resources they need. I think that those kinds of discussions are definitely necessary, and we can take what we learn as a group of artists talking together and deliver that message back to the council or to whichever resources we think can help support us in that. Diane, art organizations have relief funds that we can now help artists more. It's true. I don't know if everyone saw the news, the budget was approved. So there's been a huge increase in funding for arts and culture in New Jersey. A lot of that money is going to be for smaller groups and artists funneled through the county cultural and heritage offices. So there's going to be lots of opportunities around there. And I want to make sure that we are establishing a group that can help not only the people who attend these webinars, because I know the middle of the day and the middle of the week isn't feasible for everyone, but to help us understand what other groups we might be able to broker. And if there are cultural leaders or artists who want to step up and maybe help facilitate some of those talks as representatives of the artists of South Jersey, you understand better than anyone the challenges and the needs. And, you know, I certainly can accommodate you logistic wise, helping with the Zoom and marketing and getting everyone together to convene. But I would love to see artists taking the lead on these conversations and really using this as an opportunity to have a platform to work with each other more closely. So looks like we've got a couple of ideas for upcoming sessions. I will be sending around a thank you email with links and information related to what we talked about today for the individual artist fellowship, as well as email addresses for additional questions and a link to a survey you can fill out to let us know how you liked this session, if it was relevant for you, if you'd like to see more of them. And if so, what kind of sessions you might like to have in the future. So right now we're at about 1:55. So I'll use the last few minutes just as an open platform. Anyone have anything they want to share with the group about what you're working on, questions you might have, suggestions, thoughts for the day, good quotes, funny jokes, anything you want to contribute?
I do.
Okay, Erin.
It's Erin. Yeah, just with regard to the application, you know, I have a crit group for photography that I meet with probably 8 or 9 times a year. I think they're really important. They have helped me, you know, separate the wheat from the shaft. They also, I would say, like, I do think if you can get in writing very succinctly what your project is, that just you do I mean, I know for most of us, we're visual artists, so that can be very difficult to do, but it's really important to know your why. I think what Mr. Gola said, having a body of work is important also, because again, that's your why. This is why you're here. And the last thing is I think like if you don't have a group really to do a crit, make sure your work has teeth, meaning it's gotta give an emotion, good, bad, ugly, but it can't be indifferent. Somebody has to feel something. So make sure when you're putting your best foot forward, it's gonna knock the judges off their feet. Like you want to hit them with something. So, and do it.
Thank you, Erin. Anybody else want to share? No? Okay, well, I just want to thank everyone for taking time out of our busy days to get together and connect and talk a little about this fellowship and a little bit about the application process in general. And I certainly hope that we see you all next month when we have another session. Invite your friends. We want this group to grow. And we also want your suggestions about what you want to talk about. So it can be anything that's on your list. These are your meetings and we want them to work for you. So again, thank you. I'm just going to share my screen one last time here, just for a moment, just to say thank you to our sponsors, our funders, the State Council for being here to answer our technical questions about the specific fellowship and to listen to our concerns so that we can address any of the questions coming from the field. The link to the survey is also there on that last slide. I'll send the slide deck around with other links in the email so you don't have to worry about jotting down all of these things right now. But please join us next month and good luck on your applications. And if you have any questions, need any resources, or just want to reach out and chat for a while, please don't hesitate to drop us an email or give us a call at SJCA. We're here to help. Thank you, everybody. Have a great afternoon.